Hello everyone. This is Kristen with Intentionally Nourishing. Today I'm going to be talking about the second part in my journey towards healing, and it's a little bit controversial, but I can't, share my story without talking about this part. And this part was removing my mercury or amalgam fillings. I mentioned before that I was on the GAPS diet for about a year and a half, and while I was feeling a lot better, I still wasn't feeling 100%, and there was still a number of foods that I wasn't able to digest, even though my acne and headaches had cleared some. So it happened that I was going through this diet when I had started a new job, and one of my coworkers I understood was only working part-time because he was having some health problems. And so talking with him a little bit one day in the staff room, he mentioned that he had just come back from getting his mercury fillings removed, and how some people at the Mayo Clinic had thought that, there might be a tie between mercury fillings and autoimmune disease. And so he, after I told him I had had a couple autoimmune diseases as well, he said, well, you might want to, figure out if you have mercury fillings, and you might want to look at that route to see not only does mercury fillings play a role in autoimmune disease, but it also impacts your digestion. So that night I started researching again and, looked at the symptoms of what would be mercury poisoning. And you have to excuse me today, I'm going to use my notes because I don't want to misconstrue any information. But the symptoms are chronic fatigue, brain fog, memory issues, indigestion, unexplained headaches, numbness and tingling, and then emotional problems like anxiety and depression and even suicidal thoughts. So I had almost all of those symptoms minus the suicidal thoughts, thank goodness. And so I decided to pursue this even more and went and saw my chiropractor / nutritional therapist, and just confirmed with muscle testing that I was reacting really poorly to mercury and that I was absorbing a lot of it in my system. So the problem with mercury fillings, and if you're not sure what a mercury filling is it's also called a silver filling. And these fillings, which the technical term is amalgam, are fillings that are made up of a number of elements mixed together. So you've got copper, tin, zinc, and let me look at the other one, silver, and those are mixed together with an equal weight of liquid mercury. They have been used for, close to 200 years, and for a long time, they're pretty stable fillings and they're really cheap. And the interesting thing is that when you mix those elements together, within a few minutes and a couple chemical reactions later, that mixture is solid at room temperature. And so they place that into your cavity to stop the decay process. But in 1976, they upped the amount of copper in that recipe to 24 to 33%. And anytime you have copper mixed with mercury at the 30% range, mercury is released from the substance 50 times faster. And so that may be part of the reason why we're seeing this huge onslaught of autoimmune disease. And I'm not saying that everyone that has an autoimmune disease, got it from the mercury fillings, but there definitely is a connection there. And I can tell you, for me, when I searched back to when I got my mercury fillings, it was in my early 20s, which is when my symptoms started a little bit after that. Some other things that speed up the release of mercury in your filling are other dental work, so braces, crowns, bridges, and then just things we do every day, eating, chewing, drinking hot liquids, brushing our teeth, grinding our teeth when we sleep. Think of a filling like a rock. A rock is not a substance that never changes. You can break little pieces off the rock. You can get residue and powder off the rock, just like you can with the mercury fillings. And the danger with mercury is it is one of the most toxic substances on the planet. I mean, I'm sure you've heard, if you ever break a thermometer, do not touch the mercury. And so if we're not supposed to touch mercury, then why is it safe for it to be in our teeth is my big question. And the other dangerous thing about mercury when it's in your mouth is mercury is most easily absorbed under the tongue and in the linings of the cheek. So, as you're eating your food, saliva is what starts the digestive process, and saliva also breaks down the mercury. And so you get a mixture of the mercury and the saliva in your food, and it goes down into your stomach. And one of the first issues that mercury can cause for people is digestive problems, which I had a ton of. And the reason this is that the mercury, when it mixes with the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, turns into mercuric sulfide. And let me make sure I got that right. Yes. And mercuric chloride, excuse me. And the mercuric chloride, when it touches those friendly bacteria that are in your stomach and in your intestine, it does one of two things. It kills them instantly, or it actually chemically alters the behavior of the good bacteria and turns them into bad bacteria. So these bacteria that all they've known their life is to help you digest your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, now don't help you digest and oftentimes start wreaking havoc on your digestive system. So you're not only losing good bacteria, you're also converting good to bad. And so in my instance, I had way too many bad bacteria. And so this also just spoke to the fact that my mercury fillings were probably causing a lot of problems for me digestively. The other thing about mercury is it's very tricky. It changes forms and comes in a variety of forms. And each of these different forms, as it interacts with the cells in our bodies, has different impacts on those cells. And so because our cells have receptor sites, that's how they communicate. They release chemical signals to talk to one another or to grab an oxygen molecule if it's a red blood cell, whatever that may be. These mercury atoms bind to your cells. And when the mercury atoms bind to your cells, then what they do is they leave that cell abnormal. And so what the body saw before as a red blood cell or a thyroid cell or a brain cell now sees as a foreign invader, because it's not self anymore. It is self plus mercury. And so that's what starts an autoimmune disease. Now, I'm not saying, again, that everyone that has mercury fillings, that's, the main cause, because for a lot of people, mercury fillings don't cause toxicity in the body. My husband is an example of that. He had a larger mercury filling than my two put together, and he did not have any of these symptoms. And so, it just depends on the person, but I just thought I'd share this just in case you have these unexplained symptoms, and you want another avenue to look into. So if you're going to get your mercury fillings removed, you need to go see a biological dentist. You do not want your regular dentist taking these fillings out, because if you don't take proper precautions, you will get a huge absorption of mercury when they break apart that filling to remove it from your mouth. I will post some websites that you can look into biological dentists. The dentist that I used in Lincoln City is no longer practicing. She retired. But I'll tell you this, when she removed our fillings, she showed up in what looked like an astronaut suit. And I had ventilators and I had a dental dam covering my entire throat so that I couldn't breathe in any of those vapors. I had a vitamin C IV. I mean, there was a whole protocol that we followed. And I'll just tell you this too, that the months following my mercury fillings being removed, my digestion finished the healing process. And I was finally able to eat those last few foods, with the exception of gluten, without getting headaches or stomach aches and that kind of thing. So it was a huge success for us. And the reason why I say us is that I was responding so negatively to mercury that they asked that my husband also get his removed, because just him sleeping next to me, grinding his teeth, or us brushing our teeth together in the same bathroom, I would continue to be exposed to those mercury vapors. And so they said I would have the best chance for healing if we both had him removed, and he graciously agreed. So I love my husband. He's been a huge supporter and cheerleader in this journey, and he's eaten a lot of the food that I've made, and he's taken part in a lot of the things that I've done. And so I really appreciate him. I want to give him a little shout out. So yeah, like I said, I will post the two websites. The dentist that started this protocol is called Dr. Huggins, and he was a dentist for 50 years. And then you can also just do a lot of research on mercury in the body and the dangers there. And yeah, and I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else important for you guys. But yeah, mercury is in a lot of other places besides fillings. They talk about mercury in fish, but you absorb 4 times the amount of mercury from your fillings than you would from fish that you would eat. And then also there is some mercury, in the air and our water supply and different things. So it just depends if your body processes the metals well or is having a hard time removing them. And so, you can see someone to do muscle testing, and then there's some other tests that you can do as well that you can check out on these websites. So hopefully you found this helpful. Again, I'm not dogging the dental industry. Some of my dear friends and my mother-in-law even are a part of the dental industry. There's just things that we do and we make changes, and we're seeing that in our food and in, cleaning products and all kinds of stuff, that we just don't understand the ramifications of things, until, it's down the road and people are impacted by them. So this was my personal story and my reaction to mercury fillings, and it changed my life to get them taken out. And so if you have any more questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Check out the websites, and we'll be back soon with some more information on how I remove toxins from other areas of our home, and then that awesome cookie recipe coming up on Friday. So thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.